Going into the 2025 NFL offseason, everybody knew the one question that the New York Giants definitely had to answer was their quarterback position. They might not have to go that far. Aaron Rodgers, there are rumblings that Aaron Rodgers could be the New York Giants signal caller in 2025. We'll talk about that right now. Welcome back, everyone. Mozarsky Memos, episode 32. We'll be talking about the Giants quarterback situation, the Mets dealing with injuries, and the Knicks not being able to beat good teams. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, let's get into it. So let's start with Big Blue and their quarterback position. With the NFL Combine being this week, reports are coming out that the Giants are exploring all options, and that includes the 40-year-old four-time MVP, future first ballot Hall of Famer, and Super Bowl champion Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers spent 2023 and 2024 with crosstown rival the Jets, obviously in 2023. Four players tore his Achilles out for the season. In 2024, though, he did have a pretty good year, not compared to what he was doing in Green Bay, but he passed for almost 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, quarterback rating over 90. The Giants are exploring every option at quarterback, and that includes Aaron Rodgers. So let's get into it. At the start of the combine week, the Giants apparently were all in on Matthew Stafford, but Stafford signed a deal keeping him with the Los Angeles Rams for the next few years. And with the position the Giants are in, they need to explore every option at quarterback. And it starts because of Joe Shane and Brian Dable, both of who enter the season on the hot seat. It's playoffs or bust for them. It's good season or bust for Dable and Shane. Shane going into year four, the Giants have not been a good football team the past two seasons. They won a playoff game in 2022, but they're going in the wrong direction. And for the Giants, their first step to competing like any team in the NFL, it's obviously the quarterback position. Daniel Jones, besides his 2022 career season, was not good. That's why he's gone, and everybody knows that. And the Giants in the NFC East, they are clearly the fourth best team, and they have the fourth best quarterback. Look at the NFC East and what the Giants are dealing with, right? Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels with the Washington Commanders, who, by the way, just picked up Deebo Samuel in a trade, so they got better. Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts in the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley, we know all the weapons they have. And Dak Prescott, passing yards, touchdowns machine. He's a good quarterback. The Giants need to explore every option, or else they are going to be the fourth best team in the NFC East. And this is where Aaron Rodgers comes in. I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers makes the Giants not the fourth best team in the NFC East, because I'll go on record right now. No matter who the Giants get at the quarterback position, they will enter the 2025 NFL season as the fourth best team in the NFC East. But I like them exploring these options because you talk about the New York Giants and what they offer. They did not have a signal caller, but they have pieces around it. Malik Neighbors, if it wasn't for Jaden Daniels, would have won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Neighbors had an absolutely incredible season last year. Over 100 receptions, set not only the Giants franchise rookie record for receptions, but franchise record. 109 receptions, 1,204 yards, 7 touchdowns. Neighbors is an absolute stud. He's a monster. Any quarterback, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, whether it's Sam Darnold that the Giants might go for, whether it's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders if the Giants decide to trade up, Neighbors is one of the best number one options in the league, and he's only going to get better going into year two. You talk about Aaron Rodgers or Sam Darnold. Rodgers played with Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. Sam Darnold, who the Giants are apparently interested in too, that's why I keep bringing him up, played with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. It's not like the New York Giants are a bad football team when it comes to skill positions because you have Neighbors, because you have Tyrone Tracy, who had over 1,000 total yards in his rookie season. He'll be the Giants' main running back come week one of the NFL season. They might bring in another by committee. We'll see how it unfolds. But with the New York Giants, it's obviously about their quarterback position. I would not mind Aaron Rodgers there. But then again, I'm a very optimistic person with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, while he did not have the best season of his career and he didn't have one of the best seasons of his career, and the New York Jets experiment was a colossal failure, he was not the reason they were a bad football team. The New York Jets were one of the worst teams in the league in terms of coaching, in terms of personnel, in terms of roster management, and it's a top-down problem with the New York Jets, as we've talked about all the time. Rodgers, 28 touchdowns. That's third in Jets single season history. It just shows how bad the Jets are with their quarterback conundrum. But he gave them chances to win games. But at the same time, he had the chance to win them games and he didn't. And this is where an aging Aaron Rodgers comes in. A 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers is not as good as prime Aaron Rodgers. A few years ago, whenever Aaron Rodgers had the ball in his hands in the final 2 minutes, fourth quarter, you could count on him to go win you a football game. That was not the case for the New York Jets this season. The New York Jets had multiple chances for Aaron Rodgers to put up together a game-winning drive, and he wasn't able to. You talk about that 3-week stretch, right? Denver Broncos week 4, Minnesota Vikings week 5, and London Buffalo Bills week 6. Aaron Rodgers in every single one of those games had a chance to lead the New York Jets down the field and put together a game-winning drive, and he went over 3. 5 years ago, Aaron Rodgers, that's probably not the case. He is one of the most clutch players in the league. I fully believe that. But he does provide the Giants a better option. He's an elite talent, can still throw the football. Mobility, apparently he was playing with a pretty much broken hamstring that was falling off the bone this entire season. If he's healthy, you don't need to count on him being the most mobile quarterback in the league. The Giants have a fine offensive line. They're okay. Andrew Thomas is one of the best left tackles in the league. He'll provide Rodgers a lot of protection on his blind side or whoever the Giants go with. Rodgers, still one of the best arm talents in the league, can still make any throw on the field. But the aging concern comes in. Other options for the Giants. Sam Darnold, I like. I really like Sam Darnold, but I'm obviously a truther with that. Darnold, best deep ball thrower in the league statistically this season. His completion percentage and touchdown rate on balls over 20 yards, both in the top 5 in the NFL. That's an option. The Giants are the number 3 pick. Maybe they give up a few assets, try to trade to number 1 and number 2 so they could get a Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, who are the best rookies in this class. Rookie quarterbacks, excuse me. Those are both options too. There are other ones too. Do they bring in a Kirk Cousins possibly for very little money? Do they go with, oh gosh, there's so many other options out there. Jimmy Garoppolo maybe, but that's a crazy one. So probably not. I'm just throwing them all out there. But the thing I wanted to talk about here is Rodgers with the Giants, because Rodgers has verbally stated how he loves New York. He built a new house there. He spent the last 2 years there. He called the Jets 2 of the best years of his career. Obviously not for winning. The Jets did not win games. They went 5-12 last season. Rodgers, 2023, didn't play, but was a great presence. And based on what people in the New York Jets are saying, and this is what I want to preface when I talk about Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he carries as much baggage as people think right now. The reviews of Aaron Rodgers as a teammate, a pure teammate with the New York Jets, were astounding. People loved him in the locker room. They loved him on the field. He makes people better. And you saw it with the way the Jets acted on social media when the Jets announced they were moving on from Rodgers. Quentin Williams going, we're rebuilding again. Quincy Williams during Super Bowl, I'll cut that. Quincy Williams and Jermaine Johnson during Super Bowl weekend saying that they want Rodgers back. People going out on a limb. He makes people better, and he's a good teammate. Sure, he carries baggage. Everybody knows what Aaron Rodgers is, but the bottom line is he is a better option than pretty much anybody has to offer. And the New York Giants, in the position they're in, and the position that Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen are in going into the 2025 season, they need to explore all options, and they need to pick the quarterback that makes them the best. And that might be Aaron Rodgers. I'd personally go Sam Darnold over Aaron Rodgers in this situation if money's pretty similar, and it won't be similar because Darnold's going to get a 3-year deal, sort of similar to Baker Mayfield. Rodgers, 1 or 2 years. But the way I'll leave it with the New York Giants, explore every avenue. Rodgers and Darnold both get rave reviews, and Rodgers, he wants a team that values him. And if the New York Giants and Brian Daboll in that offensive scheme are going to value him and they want to compete because they have to compete in 2025, with the reigning Super Bowl champions, with an ascending team in the Washington Commanders, and with the Dallas Cowboys, who always compete as long as they're healthy, you need the best option, and Aaron Rodgers might be that. Next up, bottom line, the New York Knicks cannot beat an elite basketball team. The Knicks are 0-7 this season against the Cleveland Cavaliers, Boston Celtics, and Oklahoma City Thunder, if you want to throw them in. Specifically with Cleveland and Boston, number 1 and 2 in the East, respectively, they played a thriller of a game on Friday night, by the way. The Knicks have not done well against them, and they haven't only not gotten a win, they've been blown out by Boston 3 times and Cleveland a few times too. You talk about this 2-game stretch when they went to Cleveland and to Boston in back-to-back games. They lost 142-105 and 118-105. The Celtics, a few weeks ago when they came into Madison Square Garden in a very highly anticipated game, the Knicks lost 131-104. The bottom line is the New York Knicks have not had success beating good basketball teams or elite basketball teams. So let's start talking about this. The New York Knicks roster, the way they act, everything, superstars, coaching, They are a good basketball team. I talked about this with my friend the other day. The Knicks are good. They have one of the best point guards and players in the league in Jalen Brunson. You have two of the best 3-and-D wings in the league in OG Anunoby and McCall Bridges. You have Karl Anthony Towns, who's not an MVP candidate, but he's up there for one of the best centers in the league. He's having a great year. Harden, Soul Guy, and Josh Hart. Tom Thibodeau, you know what he brings to the table as a coach. The Knicks are very, very good. But due to the fact that they can't get a win against this elite competition, that's why you can't call them a title contender yet. So if you're the Knicks, how do you fix it? I'm not a basketball coach. I obviously don't know what I'm talking about for a lot of it, but the Knicks are dead last in the league in defending the three-pointer. Yeah, that's never going to work against elite teams that shoot the three well, like the Cavs, like the Celtics, like the Thunder. They have torn the Knicks apart. They've shot well from behind the arc. If I'm going to pull up the Cleveland game right now, and I'm pulling up the team stats, Cleveland went 50% from behind the arc. The Knicks went 35%. If I pull up the Boston game from last week, Boston went 38% from the arc. That's actually pretty good. They still got blown out, the Knicks. So the Knicks do not defend the three well, and that's the first step to it. Because the Knicks, they have defensive players. Josh Hart plays defense. McCall Bridges, OG Anunoby. They need to stop the three. That's number one. Number two, players need to show up in big occasions. Like, that's the most obvious thing you could say in the NBA. And that's where Jalen Brunson comes in. That's where Karl Anthony Towns comes in. That's where Mikal Bridges has to play better. He has not been great this season. He's had good games, like on Christmas when he went for over 40 against the Spurs. But the bottom line is you need, against this elite competition, you need all your players to show up. The reason why I still think the New York Knicks have a chance to go on a run, not to make the finals, I think they could still make a conference championship, depending on how Cleveland and Boston do. You have one of the best players in the league in Jalen Brunson, and you have one of the best starting fives in the league. But the Knicks, they struggle with depth a little. They don't defend the three well. And that's just not a good recipe for success, especially against elite teams. Because when you're talking about elite teams, specifically the Celtics and the Cavaliers, which are the two teams the Knicks are trailing in the Eastern Conference, they have superstars too. If you're going to be a contender in the NBA, you need superstars. And so with the Knicks, you can't go Jalen Brunson is the definite better player because the Celtics have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown won Finals MVP. Everybody knows what Jason Tatum brings. The Cavs, Donovan Mitchell's electric, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley. The Knicks have those stars to offer too, but the difference is this team game and the idea that the Knicks are not a great defensive team, especially from outside the arc, and that comes back to hurt them. So down the stretch, it's definitely something they have to improve on. But for the Knicks, there's going to be a lot of pressure for them. They're not a title contender right now. I'm not going to call them that because the East is not wide open. Right now, I think it's a two-horse race between Boston and Cleveland. But the thing I'll say, as the Knicks go down the stretch and as they go into a 7-game set against any team, whether it's the Cavs or Celtics or it's against the Orlando Magic, Milwaukee Bucks, Detroit Pistons, anyone, you rely on your superstars, and that's where Jalen Brunson has to come up. That's why he's one of the favorites to win NBA Clutch Player of the Year. Everybody knows what he brings to the table. So if the Knicks are able to get into fighting distance against these teams, say you're at a 7-game set against Boston, and you're able to keep it close, and you're able to defend the three well, and you're able to score, and it becomes a 4-point game with 2 minutes left, game 5 in Boston, that's when you got to count on Jalen Brunson, and that's where Jalen Brunson has to prove that he's one of the best players in the NBA, and I think he can. But we've entered the stretch in the NBA, and so we'll see how it all unfolds for the Knicks. They got good competition coming up. I'm pretty sure they get Boston one more time. They're obviously going to make the playoffs, but for them, the expectation is so much higher, and we'll see how it goes. And last topic for today, injuries are starting to pile up for the New York Mets, specifically their pitching staff. Pitcher 1A, Sean Manaea, suffered an oblique strain, shoulder strain. I don't know exactly what the injury was. He's going to be out on opening day. He's going to be out for a little bit. Frankie Montas on the other side, shut down till at least Memorial Day, it looks like. So the state of the Mets pitching right now, it's not good, right? You talk about their starting rotation right now. Kodai Senga, David Peterson, Clay Holmes, Paul Blackburn, Griffin Canning. That's probably it. The Mets signed Jose Urena to a minor league deal. He might provide some help too. For more intuition on that, I urge you to check out Mets Daily Show on Clipping Socials for them, hosted by Jake Brown Radio. He's awesome. So if you're the New York Mets, where do you go with pitching? Entering the 2025 MLB season, and even 2024, the biggest concern was the Mets pitching, right? Jose Quintana, Sean Manaea, Luis Severino in 2024 were all question marks. Kodai Senga missed the entire season. Taylor McGill And David Peterson, you don't know what you were going to get for them. But with pitching coach Jeremy Hefner, manager Carlos Mendoza, and president of baseball operations David Stearns just trusting these guys, they all became borderline aces. And when I say they all, I really mean Severino, who had a great year, Quintana, who was the best pitcher in baseball in September, and Manaea. We know what he was. That's why I signed a deal to keep him in New York. 3 years, $75 million. I trust the New York Net or the New York Mets to find the pitching options while Manaea and Montas are out. For the New York Mets, it's about staying above water with that. Because you could get to July when the trade deadline comes and Dylan Cease could become available along with some other star pitchers. And the New York Mets are going to look to bolster their staff, whether they're healthy or not. And this is where it becomes key. And you have to trust what the New York Mets are doing because for years they've been able to find these diamonds in the rough when it comes to pitching. And you talk about these players that might not have been the best in other locations, but then they come to New York and they have borderline career years. You saw it with Severino. That's why he became the highest paid player in Oakland or Sacramento athletics history this offseason. You see it with Quintana, who's still out there. I wouldn't be surprised if the New York Mets signed Jose Quintana and he'll be on the roster come opening day. That's why Manaea became pitcher 1A. For the New York Mets, I'm a little more optimistic on this topic, and there's a few reasons why. Peterson proved he could be a good pitcher, and Kodai Senga should be healthy. The New York Mets should be able to stay above water until Manaea and Montas come back. And then it's not one of the best rotations in the league, but it's a good one. And especially what the New York Mets are projected to be offensively, it's good enough. And is good enough going to win you games come the playoffs? No. But you need four good pitchers. And I think if the Mets are able to put themselves in position to compete for the postseason, four starting pitchers. Kodai Senga should bounce back. Sean Manaea, if he's healthy. David Peterson or Frankie Montas, whoever you want to call, you have options. The New York Mets are a really good offensive team. Juan Soto, 2 home runs spring training. Francisco Lindor, stud. Mark Vientos, pop. Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso. Jose Siri's having a good spring training. The Mets should be one of the best offensive teams in the league. Pitching, though, they obviously need to address anything. And I think every option's open for them, especially as they inch closer to opening day, and hopefully everyone else can stay healthy. I'll end it with this, right? The New York Mets, they're a very good offensive team. Pitching was obviously their concern. Be optimistic because I think they're going to be able to find these options. Jeremy Hefner's a good pitching coach. Carlos Mendoza is a good manager. He should have won National League Manager of the Year. He didn't. And the New York Mets, if they're able to produce offense, they'll be just fine. And with that, that is how we'll end Mozarsky Memos episode 32. As always, please like and subscribe and follow on YouTube, TikTok, Spotify. Tell all your friends about it. I'm going to be pumping out more content as the weeks go on. Episodes come out around every Sunday. I try to do 1 or 2 a week. We got a lot to talk about. Rangers, Islanders, playoff home stretch, Knicks, home stretch, Mets and Yankees wrapping up, NFL free agency starting soon. We will talk about all of that and more on Mozarsky Memos. Thanks again, guys, and have a great day.